for some analysis now on this. We're now joined by energy expert, Professor Hartmut Winkler, and he joins us now via our video link. Professor, thank you so much for your time this evening here on SABC News. Let's start off here. I mean, we saw the withdrawal there for that gazette by the minister. What is your immediate reaction?
Yes, I suspect this happens because he got advice that there was a very good possibility that they were going to be losing this court case in October or so. The whole question about these suspensive conditions he was talking about. So NERSA said, yes, you can go ahead, provided this and this and this. And the key condition that I think they would have struggled to justify was whether how they came to this conclusion that this country needs these 2,500 megawatts of nuclear, as opposed to getting that electricity through some other means. So they had to somehow convince NERSA that this was the best way to go about things. In other words, they needed to look at what is the electricity demand going to be, not just in 10 years' time, but in 20 or 30 years' time. And that it therefore makes sense to build a nuclear plant now, bearing in mind that nuclear is one of the most expensive options when it comes to building. And I personally think that if they would have disclosed these documents, I think the people taking them to court would have probably demanded to see those documents, which formed the rationale for NERSA saying that, yes, it's fine, could have been criticized quite severely. Also, bearing in mind that he inherited the process of developing the new integrated resource plan for electricity, and he talks about the 2019 one that was passed. That's right. It's a little bit ambiguous about this 2,500 megawatts of nuclear because it's almost there as an add-on, without sort of explaining how exactly that's going to affect the trajectory of how electricity demand is going to grow, and what's going to be done about it, and so on. But the updated version of it, which was supposed to be finished quite a while ago, the 2023 document, that was released for public consultation roughly at the end of last year. And people were just very critical of it. They just said the assumptions were all wrong, the costings were wrong, the projections of electricity demand. And if that's the kind of thing that was given to NERSA, it could have been really been severely criticized in court, the whole rationale for it. So I suspect they would have probably lost that case. And so they decided, let's rather withdraw now and then restart the process.
And of course, that court case was expected to be heard in October. And one would say, when you look at, the concerns that were raised, public consultation, a number of people saying that the process was not fair, and looking at public consultation, how important is that when it comes to developing something so major for the country?
Yes, it's the kind of cost that we are looking at is something in the order of about 250 billion rand or so. So that is quite a big chunk of money. So if the country is going to go for that option, apart from the other safety and radioactive waste concern that a lot of people will have, the whole question is this the right way to go about things? It's certainly going to affect the country economically, and especially bearing in mind that these are projects which also tend to then, the price might all sound justifiable now, but what happens if 10 years down the line you haven't finished and you still require more money, which is exactly what happened with Medupi and Kusile, and what's happening around the world with other nuclear projects. Typically, they take a lot longer to finish than initially stated, and they end up costing a lot more as well. So if you are going to go for this option, you've really got to be sure that this is the way to do it. Also, we don't really know how the electricity space is going to be looking in 20 years' time from now. Are we going to be living in a world where almost all electricity comes from wind and solar? Are we going to be discovering new technologies? So we don't really know. And what are the cost implications of those? So that makes it even more difficult.
Yeah.
Because you're really, if you're entering into a program like this now, it's a generational effort. The current generation isn't so much going to see the effects of it, but rather the generation after that.
And what would you say then that, this withdrawal by the minister, what does then it mean for, of course, nuclear energy in the country?
Well, the main thing that I think the nuclear sector in this country needs to focus on right now is a Coburg life extension. That also is an example of something which has taken much longer than we were initially told it would take. We're told it's going to require 10 months, and then after that, it's all systems go for the next 20 years. The one unit is still not finished, and so we're looking at something like 3 years for that job. So that, I think, is what the nuclear sector should be focusing on, trying to get this Coburg exercise right. And they haven't really done that so well right now. With regards to any new nuclear plants, I think the decision really should be waiting. One should wait at this point. It's not a good time to enter into that kind of project until we know have looked at some of the other options. The whole question, for example, I mean, nuclear doesn't make sense at all if, for example, you're just going to keep on the coal plants running, as some people are arguing should happen. Also, if you're going to invest heavily in gas, which is what other people are suggesting, that's the other point. This Integrated Resource Plan 2023, which was released for public consultation at the end of last year, they had 5 scenarios. Of those, only one of the 5 only envisaged a new nuclear plant, and that was not considered the favorite one. So the official draft that we have right now does not recommend nuclear. So I don't know how one can then say, well, but we've got to go ahead with this.
All right, Professor, thank you so much for your time and for that explanation. That is Professor Hartmut Winkler, energy expert there, giving us his comments when it comes to the decision taken by the Energy and Electricity Minister, Kgosientsho Ramokgopa, to indeed withdraw that gazette for the procurement of nuclear energy in the country.